Hey guys, Meg here from Ellie's Party Supply. Today I want to show you how to put together your balloon garland kit. So if you get a kit from Ellie's, you're going to get, of course, balloons. Depending on the size you order, will depend on how many balloons you're getting. So we're going to have these little 5-inch with every pack, along with these 11-inch size balloons. And you're also going to get a couple of these big 16 or 17-inch balloons. Those are kind of our wow factor. If you happen to add on, you might also have some 36-inch balloons with your kit if you chose that as an add-on. So you're also going to get this little pack of balloon garland tape. So this is a clear tape with holes, which we're going to be sticking the balloons into. And you should also have a roll of glue dots, which we're going to use later on for our little baby balloons. Okay, here I also have with me an electric balloon pump. You may have opted for a manual pump. Hopefully you have some sort of pump, or this is going to be a lot of work. But with especially an electric pump or a hand pump, this is going to go by so much faster and be a breeze. So the first thing we're going to do is just start to blow up some balloons. Now, a special decorator trick. You know, if you've seen a lot of Instagram or Pinterest posts of balloon garlands, that the decorators get their balloons nice and round. So as you can see, a balloon will normally blow up in this kind of oval shape. So to solve this problem, all you're going to do is you're going to fill it up to pretty much full size, and then we're going to press it against the table or your chest and press down while releasing a little bit of air. Yes, it's going to make that sound. So now we have this perfectly rounded balloon. Balloons are really pliable, and so we can shape them a little bit just by pressing and releasing some of that air. So check out that perfect round balloon. So you might want to determine from the beginning what you want your pattern to look like. Do you want to go for an ombre or color blocked effect, where all of your same color balloons will be sectioned out? Or do you want a scatter effect, meaning the colors of the balloons will be scattered across the garland kind of randomly? I would first decide whether you want to go scattered or block colored, because that's going to depend on where we place our balloons in the garland. So another pro tip is to blow your balloons up at different sizes. So we have 11-inch balloons here, and these can be blown up to 9 inches, 8 inches, 11, 10. By varying the sizing and putting different sizes close to each other, it's going to give your garland more of that organic effect that the designers are known for. We can take our garland tape and start to put the balloons into the garland tape. So this is very simple. All we're going to do is take the bottom of this balloon and we're gonna fold this up. Hopefully you can see. And all you have to do is push the folded side through and just pull all the way through. It doesn't really matter if the knot itself goes through. Sometimes it might not, sometimes it might pop back out. As long as this is through all the way, you shouldn't have a problem too much with balloons popping out of the tape. This is pretty sturdy. So when you're going to put in your next balloon, when you're just starting, I would recommend putting your second balloon on the opposite side of the tape. So if this one's pointing this way, you want the next balloon pointing the opposite way. And you can put it in the hole right next to that one. We want to create sort of a cluster effect to build off of. Okay, so now we have 2 balloons let's blow up some more. Okay, so for these first section, we're going to keep adding the balloons right next to each other. So you want to keep using the same, if we put one here, we want to put one right next to it for the first 4 or 5 balloons. Again, we want to create that sort of starting cluster effect. The balloon tape is a really good shortcut. Balloon designers will often use things like fishing wire to attach the balloons to each other, which is, it works, but it's a little bit more complicated for beginners. So I find that the balloon tape is a really easy way to get started with balloon garlands, and it comes out looking just as good. Okay, so we have our first sort of cluster of 4 here. I'm gonna blow up one of our 17-inch balloons to start adding some depth. See how nice and round that got just by kind of pressing some of that air out? Great trick. Now again, I'm alternating the direction that I put the balloons in every time. So now we've got a great cluster starting to form. Okay, so we have a good base section now. And we've gotten to the point where we have this cluster and I can no longer reach far in enough to put the balloon directly next to the last balloon and the hole right next to the last one without risking it popping back out. So now that we have this nice cluster effect, we can start to space these further apart and basically start creating a second cluster. So what I'm gonna do is reach in here. I know you can't see what I'm doing here, but I'm reaching just far enough that the balloon starts to tighten against the other balloons. And that's where I'm going to stick it through. Okay, so now if you look, you can see where I just placed that balloon. Hopefully you can see. The garland tape, you can see from this side. So what we want to do here is start adding to the opposite side and fit one in here to kind of fill up this space. So I'm going to blow one up pretty small to kind of sneak inside here. Now, if you still have a bit of a gap, don't worry too much because we're still going to be adding in our little baby 5-inch balloons later, but the balloons, you can kind of play around with them and shift them a little bit to fill in any of the gaps. And of course, you can always go back in and add more later. So one quick tip, if you have some giant 36-inch balloons, you can blow them up, but I'd actually recommend waiting until the end once you're setting up your garland to decide where to put these. Because if we just kind of throw them into the garland now, we're not really sure how it's going to fall because these are really a focal point. So we want to go in and we might take a balloon out to fit this in later, but just a heads up if you're wondering what to do with these. So we're going to continue to build onto this garland, and I will show you once the garland itself is done, and then we'll go back in and start blowing up our little 5-inchers. So I've got the garland up, as you can see, and I put in the big giant balloons, but it looks a little sparse in parts. So since we've already gone through and added in the garland tape our big balloons, I actually want to add a few more regular 11-inch size balloons, but I'm not going to attempt to stuff them into the remaining garland tape holes because I don't want to risk popping out any of the balloons or just in general messing this up. I'm actually going to adjust the shape a little bit. I want a little bit more of like a flowy shape from the bottom up. So while I blow up a couple more balloons, what I'm going to do is now we're going to take our glue dots and we're going to take some balloons and use the glue dots to put regular size balloons in any of the missing spots. So I could stick one here, and by the way, you can kind of lay them on top, step back, make sure it looks good, and then you can go back in with your glue dots to secure them in place. Usually I'll use 2 glue dots, one on the kind of base balloon and then one on one of the touching balloons to make sure that it's really locked in there good. So I'm gonna go through now and add in balloons, regular size balloons to any of the gaps. And finally, we can get to our little mini balloons. As you can see, I added a bunch of little clusters in all the places that you could see holes. I also added some star mylar balloons for this design. Depending on your design, you might have any sort of add-ons that you want to add. Maybe you want to add some pampas grass. Maybe you want to add some pampas grass or some safari leaves or flowers. Whatever you can think of. For this, I'm actually going to do a shoot of this and add some decor into the scene here. But I hope you found this helpful. And if you have any questions about putting your garland together, please do let me know in the comments. And happy ballooning, guys.